The story begins with a text message exchange on their phones. Miyuki sends a message to Eiji, apologizing. She says something came up with her club activities and that she can't make it to their date. Eiji replies that he understands and that it's okay. He tells her not to worry and wishes her good luck with practice. The scene shifts to a young man sitting alone on a train. His name is Eiji Aono. He looks sad and disappointed as he stares at his phone. Eiji thinks to himself that today was supposed to be their special anniversary date. As the train moves, Eiji starts thinking about his girlfriend, Miyuki Yamada. She is his childhood friend, and he confessed his feelings to her last Christmas. To him, Miyuki is like an idol he has always admired. He believes that if they weren't childhood friends, he would never have had the courage to talk to her, let alone date her. It has been 6 months since they started dating, but because Eiji is very shy, they haven't even kissed yet. He still can't believe that she canceled their first official date as a couple. He put a lot of effort into today. Eiji eventually finds himself on a busy street filled with people. He stops and looks up at a building. He realizes this is the movie theater where he was supposed to go with Miyuki. His thoughts drift and he imagines sitting next to her inside the dark theater. Suddenly, he snaps back to reality, blushing and feeling flustered. He wonders why he's daydreaming about things like that. Then Eiji suddenly freezes, a confused look on his face. He glances to the side and sees a couple kissing near a doorway. As he looks around, he notices that the area is filled with couples. That's when he realizes it. He's in the Love Hotel district. Eiji's face turns completely red in shock and embarrassment. His mind keeps wandering. He imagines himself in a hotel room with Miyuki. In his daydream, Miyuki nervously pulls at her clothes. She sits on the edge of the bed, embarrassed and hesitant. Eiji snaps back to reality, feeling stupid for thinking like that. He decides it's best to just go home. But as he turns around, he suddenly sees Miyuki, walking together with another guy. Miyuki is smiling happily, clinging to the boy's arm. Eiji freezes completely. His body won't move. He barely manages to say her name, wondering if it's really her. Miyuki notices him. Her face fills with shock as she stammers his name. She quickly asks Eiji why he's there. Overcome with pain and anger, Eiji lunges forward and grabs Miyuki's arm. She cries out, saying he's hurting her. Eiji immediately starts apologizing, but before he can finish, the blonde boy punches him hard in the face. The force sends Eiji flying backward, crashing onto the ground. The blonde boy angrily shouts at him, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing to his girl. Eiji yells back, asking what he's talking about, and says that she is the one who cheated. With a cruel smirk, the blonde boy asks if Eiji is some kind of stalker. He tells Miyuki to say something too. The boy continues mocking Eiji. He says Miyuki is only dating him because they're childhood friends. He adds that she finds Eiji boring and that his sweaty hands disgust her. Heartbroken, Eiji looks at Miyuki. Then comes the final blow. The blonde boy says that Miyuki always talks like that when they're in bed together. Eiji's face fills with horror and despair. He freezes, unable to process what he just heard. He clutches his chest in shock. The blonde boy turns to Miyuki and sarcastically asks what the problem is. He says that if she likes Eiji so much, he wouldn't mind ending things right there. Then, with a cold glare, he gives her an ultimatum. Either break up with him or break up with Eiji. Miyuki starts crying, biting her lip in pain. She turns desperately to the blonde boy and begs him not to leave her. She screams that she can't go on living if he abandons her. The boy gently pats her head and says that as long as she understands, that's enough. But he's not done. He turns to Miyuki and demands that she clearly say who Eiji is. Miyuki looks at Eiji. Her face falls into shadow as she speaks. She says that Eiji was her childhood friend, but now calls him clingy and possessive, like a stalker. With a disturbing smile, she continues her lie. She calls him a horrible and abusive boyfriend. Eiji stares at her in pure horror. He can barely whisper her name. The blonde boy orders her to make everything clear. Miyuki stands beside the other boy and turns to Eiji. She apologizes and says she can't be with him anymore. Then she adds one last painful demand. She tells him not to speak to her at school either. Eiji stands there, completely broken and empty. From that day on, his once peaceful daily life began to collapse. The scene shifts to a restaurant called Onyo Kitchen. Eiji walks in with a gloomy expression. Behind the counter are two adults working, a young man wearing a bandana and a woman. The young man greets Eiji cheerfully and welcomes him home. The woman smiles and comments that he came back early. The young man asks if he skipped lunch and offers to make him something to eat. Eiji replies shortly that he's fine and thanks them. After that day, Eiji remains in a daze. He spends his time lying in bed, doing nothing but waiting for the hours to pass. He feels lost and powerless. The woman from the restaurant appears at his bedroom door and asks if he's not going to eat. Eiji quietly answers that he is. This scene repeats again and again. Eiji keeps having the same horrible nightmares. In his dream, the sky is dark and unsettling. He He sees Miyuki being hugged by her senpai. In another scene, she is held tightly in the senpai's arms. She says that Eiji is disgusting, that he misunderstood their childhood friendship and became possessive. Eiji sees himself small and helpless, trapped behind glass. The senpai's voice tells Miyuki to forget about that creepy guy and focus on him instead. Miyuki answers yes. Eiji begs for the nightmare to stop. He suddenly wakes up in bed, gasping in panic. He sits upright, trembling. He has become so afraid that even sleeping terrifies him. At school, things are no better. A friend casually puts an arm around Eiji and cheerfully asks if there's anything new with Amada-san. Eiji forces an awkward laugh, not knowing how to respond. Later, Eiji sees Miyuki walking with her friend. Miyuki has her back turned, but when she notices him, she looks surprised and softly says his name. Her friend immediately steps in and tells Eiji not to get involved with Miyuki anymore. She calls him a disgusting abuser. She grabs Miyuki by the arm and pulls her away. With an angry, protective glare, she threatens Eiji, warning him that if he keeps stalking Miyuki, she won't let him get away with it. As they walk off, she says Miyuki must properly ignore stalkers like him. Eiji watches them leave, his face dark and defeated. The scene shifts back to Aonyo kitchen. Later that night in his room, Eiji suddenly grabs his phone. His expression twists in horror. He sees an email from an unknown account. The message is short and cruel. It tells him to die and calls him disgusting. Below it is a long list of hateful messages. He's called an abusive bastard. Another message calls him a violent idiot before being cut off. More messages flood in, calling him a violent creep and the worst kind of stalker. The insults echo in his mind, accusing him of betrayal and telling him to die. Eiji can't understand what's happening. He desperately thinks that he did nothing to deserve this. He jumps out of bed in agitation and despair as the messages keep coming. They tell him never to return to school. They call him scum and demand that he give up. The next day at school, Eiji walks slowly down the hallway. He stops in front of his classroom door, his hand shaking. He tells himself it's okay and that he should act like it's a normal day. The moment he enters the classroom, every student turns to stare at him. The room falls into an uncomfortable silence. Eiji walks to his desk and sits down stiffly. He remains frozen, his face pale with horror. He feels surrounded by hateful stares and whispered words telling him to disappear. They call him disgusting, annoying, trash. He thinks again that he did nothing wrong. Suddenly, Miyuki's friend slams her hand onto his desk. She shouts at him to shut up and calls him a criminal. She angrily says there's no way Miyuki would lie. Eiji is stunned. She adds that Kondo senpai from the soccer club said he saw everything. At that moment, Eiji understands the harsh reality. Two school celebrities versus someone labeled a criminal like him. With firm conviction, she declares that anyone would know who to believe. Eiji lowers his head, completely defeated. He thinks that he doesn't want to hear anything anymore. He rests his head on his desk, wondering why everything had to turn out this way. While the rest of the class laughs and chats, Eiji sits alone outside on a bench, eating his lunch. His phone buzzes with a notification. The message says that today's club meeting has been suddenly canceled and that there's no need to attend. Eiji thinks there's no one left in class he can trust. Still, he decides to go to the club room. He thinks that maybe, despite the cancellation, someone might still be there. From behind the door, Eiji hears voices. One club member asks if the other made sure to lie and tell Aono that the meeting was canceled. They say they messaged him during lunch and add that it's scary just to see him. Another asks what they should do with the draft Eiji drew. The reply is cold. They already threw it away. Then comes the final reason for their contempt. They say he doesn't even have talent, yet still puts so much effort into the manuscript. Their cruel conclusion echoes in Eiji's mind. They think he's truly pathetic. Tears run down Eiji's face. Suddenly an idea comes to him. He thinks that maybe Professor Ayas is still in the classroom. He rushes there, but stops at the door when he hears voices. Inside, he hears Miyuki's friend Hayagi talking to the teacher. Hayagi says she thinks Miyuki has been very worried lately. Professor Ayas replies that it's rare for Miyuki to have any trouble and asks if Hayagi got involved because she's too kind. Miyuki speaks quietly and says she's fine. Eiji turns and runs down the hallway. As he runs, he remembers Professor Ayas's encouraging words from before. He reaches his locker and opens it. Inside is another cruel note. The note threatens him, warning that if he complains, they'll go after his family's shop. The school day ends and students begin heading home. Eiji is shown running away from the school. He returns to his family's restaurant. The doorbell rings softly as he enters. The woman inside welcomes him and asks if there was no club today. She says she understands, mentioning that it was canceled at the last minute. With concern in her eyes, she tells him that he hasn't been looking well lately and reminds him to get proper rest. Eiji thanks her. His mother tells him that even if she and his brother are tired, the children don't need to worry about their parents. His older brother agrees, telling Eiji to just enjoy school. That's all he needs to do. Eiji knows that ever since their father passed away, his mother has never cried in front. She always smiles, so they won't worry. His brother has done his best to protect the family and the restaurant in their father's place. With a forced but determined smile, Eiji says he'll do his best. He believes that as long as he keeps enduring, no one else has to suffer. The scene shifts to Miyuki's room early in the morning. She sits alone on her bed, unable to sleep. Ever since that day, she hasn't been able to rest. She keeps thinking that maybe it was all just a bad dream. She wonders why everything had to turn out this way. She imagines what might have happened if Kondo-senpai hadn't been there. She thinks she might have clung to Eiji, crying and begging not to break up. When she saw Eiji being bullied, she almost cried herself. But she tells herself she can't cry. She believes she's the one who has no right to cry. Her friends misunderstood the situation and thought she was just inexperienced, so they introduced her to Kondo-senpai. Miyuki remembers trying to refuse, but Kondo-senpai was the ace of the soccer team, athletic, smart, handsome, and kind. Unlike her and Eiji, who were each other's first love, Kondo-senpai had a more mature view of relationships. To Miyuki, he seemed incredibly attractive. He flirted with her, saying it was obvious any guy would be interested in a cute girl like her. He joked that if it were him, he would have already tried something, then laughed, and said he was only joking. He was always attentive. He asked if she wanted another drink and offered to get it for her. With a serious expression, he told her she was very attractive and suggested that maybe Eiji was just intimidated by that. The flashback continues with the city lights in the background. Kondo-senpai pulls Miyuki close and kisses her deeply. Miyuki thinks about everything she should have shared with Eiji. She realizes it didn't take long for Kondo-senpai to take it all away. The scene shifts to a bedroom. With a confident smile, Kondo-senpai tells her it's fine. He says that if someone doesn't make a move on a girlfriend as attractive as Miyuki, that's that person's fault. He continues manipulating her, insisting that she isn't to blame. He tells her it was Eiji who failed as a man. Miyuki realizes she must have been the perfect target. She admits that part of her felt relieved as the guilt slowly faded. Once she became fully dependent on him, she felt there was no way back. Kondo-senpai suggests they go out on the 30th since the club meeting was canceled. Miyuki hesitates and says that day is Eiji's birthday. Kondo-senpai reacts with clear annoyance and looks at his phone. He says it doesn't matter and that he'll just invite another girl instead. Miyuki is left completely shocked, unable to respond. Then Kondo-senpai turns the blame onto her. He accuses her of always putting Eiji first and says he's tired of chasing her. He tells her they should break up. Panicking, Miyuki begs him to wait and asks what he's talking about. He coldly says that this way they'll both be happier. Miyuki had believed that Eiji would forgive her. She relied on his kindness, and so she chose the senpai. She had always believed she would marry Eiji. He was the person she had spent over 10 years with, her destined one. She felt like she needed to confess everything to everyone, but a voice inside her whispered otherwise. She knows she was the one who lied and betrayed him, but she's terrified of losing everything. The next day at school, Eiji's life becomes a constant nightmare. His shoes are stepped on and covered in dirt. When he reaches his desk, he finds trash and hateful notes scattered across it, telling him to die. As he walks through the hallway, he hears classmates whispering. A group of boys says he's violent and disgusting, adding that they feel sorry for poor Amada-san. Two girls talk nearby. One says Kondo-senpai was amazing for getting rid of him. The other says she doesn't even want to speak to Eiji. Eiji enters a classroom and looks at the blackboard. His blood runs cold. The board is covered in cruel words and photos of him. There are pictures of Eiji and even a photo of his family's restaurant. Horror hits him. Because of him, his family and his father's shop are now in danger. He keeps asking himself why. Overwhelmed by rage and pain, Eiji punches the wall with all his strength. He screams in despair, demanding to know why this is happening to him. Then Kondo-senpai appears. He wears a satisfied, cruel smile. He mocks Eiji, asking how it feels, calling him a criminal. Eiji turns toward him, his face twisted with fury. He demands to know why Kondo would spread such horrible lies. Kondo-senpai smiles darkly and reveals the truth. He says he did it because it was fun. Watching Eiji lose his girlfriend and everything else was a great show. He blames Eiji, saying it was his fault for thinking someone like him could ever be with Miyuki. He sneers and tells him to quit school. With a wide, twisted grin, Kondo-senpai admits that he enjoys ruining people's lives. Eiji collapses. He falls to his knees, crushed by despair. In that moment, he feels like he has lost everything. The scene shifts to the school infirmary. A nurse stands beside Eiji's bed with a worried look. She says she'll notify his teacher just in case. Eiji lowers his head and quietly thanks her. He sits on the bed, staring forward with empty eyes. A terrible realization settles in his mind. No one is going to help him. He believes even the teachers will trust the smart and capable Miyuki over someone like him. He feels like he can't talk to his mother or his brother about any of this. After being betrayed by Miyuki, his childhood friend and girlfriend, he feels completely finished. With a year and a half left until graduation, he wonders how he's supposed to survive. Then his phone buzzes. It's a message from the club president. Eiji's eyes widen in horror as he reads it. The message says that after what Amada claimed he did, the club members are scared. On behalf of everyone, the president asks Eiji to stop coming to the club. Tears fall onto the screen. The message ends with a final request for him to stay away. Eiji shakes his head, crying, telling himself it's not true. He insists that he didn't do anything wrong. The pain becomes too much. He throws himself onto the bed, completely broken. Then he notices something else. His former friends have blocked him. Eiji breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably, his face twisted in agony and despair. Later, he speaks briefly with his teacher. He apologizes for causing trouble and says he's fine. The teacher simply tells him to take care of himself. Eiji is left alone. He decides that for now, he'll just endure. He hopes that one day his heart will grow numb to people's cruelty. The scene shows Eiji sitting alone at the top of a staircase. Cruel words echo endlessly in his mind. He stares at the door that leads to the rooftop. A dark thought quietly takes shape, an urge to escape everything. Without thinking further, he opens the door. Eiji steps onto the rooftop, his lonely silhouette standing against the bright sky. At that moment, someone else is already there. He looks up, his expression empty and distant. A girl with blonde hair and green eyes stands before him, the girl who will change his fate.
Hey guys, sorry for mid-editing, but I noticed a lot of you are watching my videos without subscribing. Our subscribe ratio is literally close to 0. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Thanks. Now, back to the recap.
Chapter 2 begins on the school rooftop. Eiji stands there, silent and drained. The girl looks straight at him and asks who he is. He introduces himself as Eiji Aono, a second-year student. He makes an excuse, saying he skipped class and wandered around, ending up there by chance. Inside, he thinks he can't tell her the real reason he came. She recognizes him and calls him Aonyo-senpai. Eiji realizes who she is. Her name is Ichijo. She's the prodigy who ranked first in the last year's entrance exams. With her gentle personality and striking beauty, she became a school celebrity almost immediately. He's heard that many boys have already confessed to her. Ichijo looks annoyed, wondering why he showed up at a time like this. Eiji explains that he just wants somewhere to hide until lunch break ends. He mentions the bad rumors about him and politely asks to be left alone. She refuses, firmly. She says the rooftop is hers and she won't give it up. Eiji asks if she's sure, reminding her of the rumors. Ichijo says she knows about them. Even so, her answer doesn't change. Eiji is shocked. She sighs, clearly irritated, and says she already told him. Those are just rumors. She hasn't seen any of it with her own eyes. Then she adds that love, in the end, is almost like a disease. She asks why people believe a one-sided story told by only one person. She says that these days people believe only what they want, when it suits them. She finishes by saying it's disgusting to point fingers at someone without even knowing if it's true. Eiji lowers his head. A small glimmer of hope appears in his eyes. Hesitantly, he asks if that means she believes him. Ichijo answers firmly. She says it's not about believing or not. Crossing her arms, she states with conviction that judging someone based on one-sided biased gossip is simply wrong. Her words hit Eiji hard. His eyes widen in shock. Tears well up as relief washes over him. Quietly, he says, "Thank you." Ichijo freezes, clearly caught off guard. With an irritated look, she asks why he's thanking her of all people. Eiji lets out a small laugh and says that if she doesn't understand, that's fine. The two stand alone on the school rooftop. Suddenly, heavy rain begins to pour. Eiji suggests they go inside so they don't catch a cold. Ichijo sharply tells him to leave her alone. Rain soaks her face, making her look even more irritated. She yells at him, asking if he still doesn't understand. Frustrated, she demands to know why she's there all by herself. Eiji, completely confused, asks what she means. Ichijo says it doesn't matter. She adds that she doesn't care if she gets sick from the rain. In a hollow voice, she explains that for her, tomorrow doesn't really exist. Eiji freezes. Panicking, he follows after her and tells her to wait. Ichijo turns around, her face soaked with rain and anguish. She screams at him to leave her alone. She angrily asks what part of her words he doesn't understand. Acting on instinct, Eiji rushes forward and grabs her wrist tightly. He shouts for her to stop. Rain crashes down as Ichijo struggles, panic flashing across her face. With a firm voice, Eiji yells, "That's enough. Suddenly, Ichijo slips on the wet ground and loses her balance. She screams as she falls. Eiji lunges forward and catches her, but the two crash hard against the fence at the edge of the rooftop. Ichijo shouts at him, demanding to know why he protected her. She starts to say that if the railing had been weak, Eiji cuts her off and tells her to stop. His emotions finally burst out. He yells that he doesn't think there's any reason not to help someone. Then, without thinking, Eiji shouts something shocking. If she really wants to disappear so badly, then at least she should spend today with him. He adds that they should skip class together. Ichijo stares at him in total shock. She yells at him, irritated, asking if he even understands how serious this is. After venting her frustration, she finally lets out a sigh. She says she guesses she doesn't have much of a choice. They sit down on the rain-soaked rooftop. Then Eiji makes a quiet confession. He admits that he also came to the rooftop feeling cornered, never imagining he would end up stopping someone else instead. Ichijo is completely stunned. Eiji stays seated, watching her. Tears stream down her face, but a faint smile appears. She agrees with him. She softly says, "Yee, that's just how it is." The rain keeps falling as the two sit side by side. For a brief moment, there is calm and understanding between. Eventually, Eiji suggests they go inside. Ichijo agrees. Eiji offers her a handkerchief and tells her to use it. She hesitates, but he insists. With a slightly embarrassed look, she accepts it and thanks him. As she dries herself, Ichijo blushes and tells him not to stare at her. Eiji quickly looks away and apologizes. Then he glances back. She looks shy as she continues drying her hair. Ichijo teases him, saying he's staring again right after she told him not to, calling it harassment. Eiji panics and apologizes repeatedly. Calming down, Ichijo asks what they're going to do now. With a subtle smile, she reminds him that since he invited her to skip class, he must have a plan. Eiji admits he doesn't have one. He says he only said it out of desperation. He thinks to himself that this is what her smile looks like. Ichijo scoffs at the thought of confessions she's received. She asks why people think she'd go out with random guys. She says being approached out of nowhere is creepy. With a serious look, she suddenly confronts Eiji. She asks if he's only interested in her looks or her status. Eiji remembers the rumors about her and realizes how wrong they were. Later, the two sit together again. Ichijo moves closer and hands him a small pouch. She says it's a reward for what he did. Eiji starts to thank her, but his stomach growls loudly, cutting him off. Completely embarrassed, Eiji hurriedly rummages through his bag. Relief washes over him when he finds an onigiri, a rice ball he had forgotten about. Trying to sound casual, he offers Ichijo half. She happily agrees. Taking a small bite, her eyes light up. She says it's delicious. Curious, Ichijo asks if it's tuna with mayonnaise. Eiji nods enthusiastically, explaining that it's a classic convenience store onigiri. He's surprised she's never tried it before and asks seriously if that's really true. With a look of wonder, Ichijo asks if everyone actually eats things this tasty. Eiji smiles broadly and tells her yes, and that there's so much more out there. He adds that leaving the world without discovering simple treasures like this would be such a waste. Ichijo grows quiet. A soft expression crosses her face, a faint blush appearing on her cheeks. With renewed energy, she declares again that it really is delicious. Clenching her fist, she says she's officially curious now. Smiling, Eiji suddenly makes an unexpected invitation. He asks if she wants to come to his house. Ichijo freezes, completely flustered. She can barely react. The scene shifts to the two of them leaving the rooftop and walking down the hallway. Ichijo asks how they're supposed to get out of the school, pointing out that the main entrance is locked. Eiji asks, jokingly, if she's planning to jump the gate. She immediately snaps back, indignant, reminding him she's wearing a skirt. Grinning, Eiji quickly says he was joking and that he knows that. Ichijo makes a sound of disdain, clearly unimpressed. Eiji then explains that there's an iron side door near the main entrance. Using a simple explanation, he lays out the plan. The door can be unlocked from the inside and closes automatically. You can't enter from outside, but leaving is easy. Ichijo narrows her eyes suspiciously and asks how he knows about a door like that. Eiji teases her, saying that a model student wouldn't know these things. He adds lightly that skipping class once in a while doesn't hurt anyone. With a determined look, he says it's fine, and that they should go for it. He reaches out and takes Ichijo's hand. Almost immediately, Eiji turns bright red. Ichijo notices and asks why he's blushing so much, telling him to stop hesitating and just hurry up. Then she pauses and asks if he's sure about this, holding hands with a girl he just met. She admits that saying she's comfortable would be a lie, but she adds that if this were a play or a movie, it would feel completely normal. Blushing deeply, Ichijo makes a surprising confession. She tells Eiji that it's actually the first time she's ever held a boy's hand, and that he should appreciate it. Eiji is so flustered, he can barely function. Suddenly filled with resolve, Ichijo tightens her grip and pulls him forward. "Let's do this," she says. Eiji thinks to himself that he's definitely turning into a tomato now. As they run away from the school hand in hand, a voice calls out in the distance, asking what they think they're doing. They don't stop. They don't look back. It feels like leaving the past behind and stepping towards something new. With her face partially hidden by the shadow of her hair, Ichijo questions herself in silence. Why was she skipping class with someone she had just met? She remembers how many times she had heard similar words during confessions. "I'll protect you." Those phrases always stirred something painful inside her. She didn't want to hear them anymore. She recalls all the boys who tried to win her over with promises of protection. How those words made her feel trapped, as if she were being wrapped too tightly. But Aono-senpai was different. He never said the words she hated. His kindness felt genuine, almost to the point of worrying her. She wonders if staying by his side might help her escape the place she'd come to dread. The scene shifts. A young man with light-colored hair stands among flowers, radiating arrogance. His name is Kondo Sei. He declares confidently that he is the center of the world. He remembers his flawless life. His father was an influential city councilman. He himself attended a prestigious school, one of the top 3 in the prefecture. There he became the ace of the soccer team, even leading a struggling squad to the national tournament. With his athletic ability, he could dominate any team. He had height, good looks, and intelligence. Even without studying much, he always stood out. Since childhood, popularity had come naturally to him. From his very first girlfriend in elementary school, he had never lacked attention. Girls were always around, and relationships came easily. But one memory from 8th grade stood out. An unpopular, quiet boy, the class Otaku, was dating the group's idol, a painfully pure relationship between childhood friends who believed they'd marry someday. Kondo watched it with scorn. As expected, the girl soon fell for him instead, abandoning her former boyfriend. She said being with that boy had been the most embarrassing period of her life. She mocked him cruelly. The betrayed boy broke down, remembering the promises they had made to each other. To Kondo, it was nothing more than entertainment. He and the others laughed, calling it hilarious. He even recorded the girl's insults and played them back for the boy, just to savor the moment. The satisfaction of conquest filled him with a twisted pleasure. From then on, he learned to enjoy taking what others cherished. Kondo Sei broke up with the girl as soon as high school began, calling her stupid for not understanding the obvious. She cried in despair, asking why he was suddenly talking about breaking up. She screamed that she had thrown everything away just to be with him. With a cruel smile, Kondo Sei typed on his phone. He said he truly hated easy women. Then, without hesitation, he told the girl standing before him that he hated her and that it was over. Her eyes filled with shock and despair, but to him, it was nothing more than another amusement. The former class idol, once admired by everyone, had reached rock bottom. From a life of popularity, she had fallen straight into misery. For Kondo Sei, ruining the lives of both men and women at once was what brought him the greatest pleasure. He laughed, declaring that watching the suffering of others was entertaining. Then he chose his next target, Eiji Aono and Miyuki. His accomplices spread messages through their phones, and rumors began circulating. A post appeared on social media. "Please share this. This girl is being abused by her boyfriend, Aono." It showed a bruised arm, fueling the lie. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, Miyuki was overwhelmed with anguish. She realized that Eiji Aono hadn't returned since the morning. The classmates who had scribbled insults on his desk were now desperately trying to erase them. Her heart tightened. She wondered if Aono-senpai had given up on school because of her. Amid her anxiety, she reflected on her own naivety. She had never imagined that Kondo Sei would spread such cruel rumors. Her eyes faltered, and her hands trembled. But when she looked out the window, she saw Eiji Aono in the distance. Her eyes widened with surprise and hope. She called out his name, shouting desperately. However, what she saw next left her paralyzed. Eiji Aono was not alone. He was running hand in hand with another girl. Miyuki's smile froze. She couldn't understand. A deep shock pierced her chest. She questioned herself again and again, nearly losing her sanity. With teary eyes, her face twisted into hatred and confusion as she wondered who that girl was. Later, Professor Takayanagi, responsible for Class 2B, resumed attendance as the second semester began. He called names one by one until he reached Eiji Aono, but there was no reply. On Eiji Aono's desk, hateful words had been carved in large letters. "Die, loser, get out." The teacher stopped roll call and asked if anyone knew where Eiji Aono was. The students exchanged tense looks until one replied that Aono-senpai had said he felt unwell and went to the infirmary. The teacher said he would check, but first ordered everyone to head to the gym. Miyuki shrank in her seat when her name was called, her body trembling and sweat dripping down her face. In the hallway, Nurse Mitsui rushed over, urgently saying she needed to talk about Eiji Aono. The teacher explained he hadn't gone to look for him yet. The nurse, distressed, admitted Eiji Aono had seemed strange and that she should have stopped him from leaving, even by force. She insisted they search the entire school, and the teacher agreed to notify the vice principal. The vice principal listened and, concerned, ordered a strategic meeting after classes. He asked the teacher to investigate in detail what had happened with the students. The teacher nodded firmly. Back in the classroom, the teacher addressed the students about property damage. The class grew restless. He explained it referred to Eiji Aono's desk. Some averted their eyes nervously, while others stared at the carved insults. He declared that even if someone believed Eiji Aono was a bad person, nothing justified writing insults on his desk. Destroying school property funded by families' taxes was a serious offense. Miyuki shrank further, unable to lift her gaze, her face marked by regret. The teacher then stated he would not allow the situation to be dismissed as mere bullying. This was not a childish prank, it was a crime. He told them to engrave that deeply in their memories. About 30 minutes before Takayanagi-sensei's scolding, the administration had called an emergency meeting. In the meeting room, the principal rushed in and apologized for being late. The vice principal, Takayanagi, and Iwai-sensei were present. The principal thanked Takayanagi for reporting quickly, stating that nothing was more important than addressing such serious news. Takayanagi admitted it was also his own failure for not controlling the class and said he deeply regretted it. Iwai-sensei responded that teachers have too many responsibilities to handle everything, and that Takayanagi had done his best. The students themselves had tried to hide the incident. The principal added that it was better to focus on the next steps, rather than dwell on the past. He agreed that Iwai-sensei was right. Iwai explained that while Takayanagi-sensei was questioning the students, he had called Eiji Aono's parents. He wanted to know how the boy was after leaving school early. He told them that Eiji Aono had felt unwell and asked if he had returned safely. They replied that he had arrived home without issue. The principal sighed in relief and said that was good news. He then announced that they needed to protect Aono-kun. He warned that if the boy began skipping school or decided to quit, everyone would lose a great deal. Takayanagi agreed. He said they had to watch over Eiji Aono closely and promised they would handle it properly. The scene shifted elsewhere. On Kondo Sei's phone were messages from Sayaka arranging to meet at her house after club activities. Two boys ran up to him, calling out urgently. They said they had important news. They explained that when they tried to intimidate Eiji Aono and scribbled threats on his desk, they had been caught. They added that Takayanagi-sensei was going to investigate the case. Kondo Sei grumbled that the overly kind teacher had moved quickly. He had expected the matter to be hushed up, but even if it grew into something serious, it didn't matter. His father would take care of it. The other boy told him not to be so relaxed. They reminded him they had done it for him. Kondo Sei cut them off coldly. He asked when he had ever ordered anyone to do such a thing. The two froze in shock. He said they had only been venting their own frustrations. They had acted on their own and even damaged school property. One tried to protest, saying that couldn't be true. He suggested pretending ignorance, since no one had been caught. Kondo Sei stared at them and warned that if they disobeyed, their futures would be ruined. Everything would end for them. He called them idiots and ordered them to obey. Nothing more. The scene shifted outside. Eiji Aono and Ichijo sat on a park bench. He asked if she was all right. She replied that it was hard to keep up with a boy after running so much. He thought to himself that she had actually managed to match his pace. Ichijo had refused every invitation to join clubs, and often withdrew even when praised. On the bench, Eiji Aono said that if she was tired, they should head home. She blushed and complained that he often dragged her along by the hand. He smiled and said she might be the first girl he had done that with. She called him a liar for phrasing it that way. The two walked down the street together. The scene shifted to Eiji Aono's family restaurant. Inside, his mother was surprised to see him return early. Eiji Aono explained that he wasn't feeling well, and that he had brought a classmate with him. His mother looked curious and remarked that she never expected him to skip school. When she saw Ichijo, she smiled warmly. The narration described the family's past. His father had once been a renowned chef, working in luxury hotels. After saving enough money, he opened the Aono family restaurant. His mother had originally been a customer, and the two fell in love. They married and built the business together, until his father passed away. Since then, his mother, who held a degree in accounting, managed the establishment supported by the staff. Eiji Aono's older brother, trained in gastronomy, inherited the kitchen and kept the restaurant thriving. Back in the present, their mother asked the two students to use the restroom in the back while business picked up. She said she would prepare lunch for them. Eiji Aono thanked her and invited Ichijo inside. The girl stepped in shyly. With a polite bow, she introduced herself. "My name is Ichijo. I'm a junior classmate of Aono-senpai. He's always looked after me. I'm sorry for intruding." His mother and brother were momentarily speechless. They muttered that they had never expected Eiji Aono to bring home such a cute classmate. His mother quickly became cheerful, praising Ichijo and telling her to relax and treat the place like home. Ichijo thanked her with a gentle smile. Inside, she looked over the menu and asked Aono-senpai for a recommendation. He replied that the house specialty was curry rice. Her eyes sparkled. She said it looked delicious. Meanwhile, Eiji Aono had already placed the order. He apologized, saying the place was small. Ichijo looked around and replied that she actually found it very interesting. She mentioned that her apartment didn't have a Japanese-style room like this one. This space was used by his mother and brother, and Eiji Aono explained that they kept many culinary books there. She smiled and said that made sense. The room felt warm and cozy. She also commented that his family seemed very close. Their mother entered carrying the food and apologized for the wait. She explained that it was the special lunch set. Ichijo's eyes widened as she admired the dish. His mother added that there was a special service. After the meal, they could choose coffee or tea. Ichijo replied that she would like tea. His mother brightened and asked if she really liked black tea. She confirmed that she loved it. His mother smiled even more, happy about the coincidence. Eiji Aono thought it made sense since he liked it too. They sat at the low table. His mother said she would return later with the drinks and left them alone. Eiji Aono and Ichijo placed their hands together and gave thanks for the meal before beginning to eat. She took her first bite and smiled, saying it was delicious. As she chewed, Eiji Aono reflected silently. Not long ago he had wanted to die. Now he was sitting here watching his kohai smile over a meal. She tried the tonkotsu soup next, and said in surprise that it was also delicious. Eiji Aono explained that it was a special recipe from his late father, made by simmering vegetables and onions for a long time. Even with little salt, it kept a deep, rich flavor. He added that he was very proud of his father. She was moved. She said his father must have been a good man, and that she could feel the love in the recipe. Eiji Aono smiled, and said that praising the dish was like praising his father. He was glad she had tasted it. Then Ichijo called him Aono-senpai and quietly asked if she should keep living. Memories of sleepless nights resurfaced for her. She confessed that she always felt pressure weighing on her. She remembered standing on the rooftop, staring at the sky after making her decision. But she had met someone who risked himself to save her. Tears filled her eyes, as she admitted that her resolve to die was starting to weaken. Eiji Aono looked at her seriously. He said he didn't know everything she had gone through. He admitted his words might sound harsh, but he wanted to speak honestly. He told her that he had been saved too, simply because she was there. Smiling sincerely, he said he truly hoped Ichijo would keep living and continue moving forward. His words struck her deeply. She had always tried to stay composed, but now she couldn't hold back. Her face crumpled as tears streamed down. She cried openly in front of him. He watched quietly. At that moment, he felt he was finally seeing the real Ichijo. Not just the polite, smiling kohai, but the fragile girl hiding her pain. And so the meeting ended with her in tears and him standing beside her. The story made it clear this was a girl named Ichijo. His mother says she will prepare a special tea for them after the meal. An elegantly decorated cup is carefully placed on the table. Sakurako thanks his mother with a bright smile, and Eiji Aono thinks she looks calmer now. His mother happily explains that she chose Sakurako's favorite tea. She says that even though it has a wine-like smell, the alcohol has already evaporated. She also suggests adding a little sugar to help relax the mind. With a look of pure happiness, Sakurako tastes the tea and says it's delicious. She adds that because the aroma is so rich, she would rather not add sugar. His mother laughs warmly at her answer. His mother then asks what kind of tea she likes. Sakurako cheerfully replies that she also loves Darjeeling tea. The two of them become excited over their shared interest, exchanging recommendations while Eiji watches quietly. With an emotional smile, his mother says she is so happy that it feels like she has gained another daughter. Then, teasingly, she tells them not to stay just friends. Blushing deeply but smiling with emotion, Sakurako softly answers yes. Eiji offers to walk her to the station, but Sakurako politely refuses as she gets ready to leave. With a bittersweet smile, she explains that if she enjoys herself too much, she will only feel lonelier afterward. She looks at him and insists she is fine, though his face still shows concern. With a gentle smile, Sakurako says she now has a reason to stay here. She calls out to him, making him turn around in confusion. With her back still facing him, she asks if they have become friends. Eiji replies that of course they have, and her face fills with shy relief. With a bright smile, Sakurako says she hopes she can rely on him from her determined eyes turn toward the city, as if she is facing a new future. As she walks alone, she thinks that those might have been the two happiest hours of her life. but soon her expression grows dark and serious, the joy from before completely gone. Blushing yet determined, she tells herself that for now, being friends is enough. Suddenly, a driver in a suit calls out to her, addressing her as young lady and saying he has come to pick her up. Sakurako replies with a cold, "Thank you," her voice empty of emotion. Back in his room, Eiji closes the door and the loneliness returns strongly. Sweat runs down his face as reality hits him. He looks at his own hand, which is still warm, and curses himself because he cannot stop trembling. He collapses to the floor and covers his face in despair, wondering what he should do starting tomorrow. Memories of torment come back, and the shadowy figures of his classmates seem to haunt him in the empty classroom. He thinks that only when he talks to Sakurako can he forget the pain of his daily life. With a small, honest smile, he wonders if she saved him, or simply led him somewhere completely different. His phone suddenly vibrates. He assumes it must be another fake account trying to harass him. But to his shock, the message is from his friend Satoshi, apologizing because his phone had been broken. Eiji remembers happy childhood moments he spent with Satoshi. More messages arrive quickly, with Satoshi desperately explaining that his phone broke during a competition. He asks if they can meet right away at the family restaurant they used to visit together. Eiji sits alone in the dark, thinking about how everyone abandoned him. He wonders how Satoshi will treat him now. But the simple fact that someone is still talking to him normally makes tears of happiness fill his eyes. He sends a short reply agreeing to meet. At the restaurant, Satoshi waves and calls Eiji over to sit with him. He urges him to hurry and take a seat. Satoshi says he knows about the serious problem Eiji has been facing. Eiji is shocked that he already knows everything. Satoshi bows deeply in apology, saying he regrets not knowing his friend was going through something so terrible. Eiji softly says Satoshi's name in shock, while Satoshi asks for forgiveness for not being a better friend. He explains that he rarely uses social media, so he did not see the strange rumors being spread. Since they were in different classes and he was busy with a club trip, he only found out about everything recently. With deep regret, Satoshi apologizes again for not being by Eiji's side when he needed him most. With his head lowered, Eiji suddenly asks if he believes in God. Satoshi looks confused and simply asks, "Why?" His friend then says with a smile that the moment he heard the rumors, he knew they were completely false. Satoshi explains that some new club members showed him the posts. He admits that he did not fully understand who Eiji Aono was close to, but he remembers a time when Eiji introduced Sakurako with a truly happy smile on his face. Because of that memory, Satoshi says he is sure everything must be a big misunderstanding. He then reveals that their homeroom teacher was actually very worried about Eiji. Satoshi explains that after hearing the rumors, he started asking classmates if they knew where Eiji had gone. Seeing that many students already believed the lies, he realized how easily people can misunderstand the truth. He ran down the school hallway in a hurry until he finally saw their teacher in the distance. Satoshi approached him, and the teacher asked what was wrong. Satoshi explained that he heard Eiji had gone home early. With strong determination, Satoshi thought that if the teacher tried to hide the situation, he would even punch him. But to his surprise, the teacher immediately apologized and asked Satoshi to tell him everything he knew about Eiji's situation. The teacher explained that he had only recently learned about the rumors. The information he received was incomplete, and he had been very busy. He asked Satoshi if he was a close friend of Eiji and whether he had heard anything. The two looked at each other seriously, tension rising between teacher and student. Satoshi admits that he was honestly scared of the whole situation. Even so, he told the teacher that he also found out only recently, but he would share what he knew. He showed his phone to the teacher, who was shocked when he saw the posts. With strong conviction, Satoshi defended Eiji, saying he is not the kind of person who would ever do something like that. The teacher thanked him for bringing the matter to him and asked Satoshi to pass a message to Eiji. He told Satoshi to trust the adults and rely on them. The teachers would take responsibility and solve the problem. With a serious expression, he asked Eiji to trust them, even if it was just a little. Satoshi smiles softly as he tells his story, surprised by how sincere and dedicated their teacher turned out to be. Hearing everything, Eiji can no longer hold back his tears. He is completely overwhelmed with emotion. Satoshi stays quiet as Eiji breaks down, finally letting out all the pain he had been carrying alone. Meanwhile, a girl runs desperately through the city streets. It is Eiji's ex-girlfriend. Filled with guilt, she keeps thinking that she must apologize to him no matter what. She finally reaches the back entrance near the kitchen of the family restaurant. With a painful expression, she bows her head and says she has just arrived. Eiji once had a wonderful life with Miyuki. Every moment was filled with laughter, Whether they were playing around or walking through the school halls holding each other's hands while joyously chattering away with the others. Sometimes when she cooked for him, it gave him the best home-oriented feeling he had ever experienced. However, his life took a cruel turn when he was cheated on and then falsely accused. Yet the most astonishing thing was that he ended up being adored by the most beautiful and charming girl in the school. Now his life was filled with joy and an ever-present smile on his face. Miyuki, who had cheated on him even after knowing him for more than a decade, couldn't bear seeing Eiji so happy with another girl. She promised herself that she had to take back her happy future with Eiji. Lingering in the corners of the hall, she stared at them with a lost feeling in her eyes as they walked through the same halls holding each other's hands, just as they once had done. Looking at them talking to each other with love-filled eyes, she thought about this new girl who had come into their lives out of nowhere. She was not an ordinary girl. She was, among all the girls in the school, Ichiju Ai. She then saw them standing in front of Eiji's home, where they were all talking enthusiastically. Ichiju was explaining something to Eiji's mother, who was looking at her with wonder. Miyuki couldn't understand why Ichiju, who was a school idol, was standing in front of his house, and on top of all that, looking very innocent and lovely as she stared down at the ground. Hiding behind a pillar, Miyuki immediately realized that this was not an ordinary face. She couldn't be mistaken, as this was the face of a woman who had fallen in love. This realization truly scared her. Miyuki then remembered the good times they had shared, how they once laughed together and thought that she was supposed to be the only one who knew Eiji's charm. She felt depressed as she wondered why, of all people, it had to be Ichiju Ai. Looking at them, truly an example of a family, she thought that she had to hurry, or Eiji would be taken from her. Thinking about Ichiju, she recounted her merits and how they had made her a bigger threat than she had predicted. Ichiju was someone who had always excelled in both academics and sports. Moreover, she belonged to a prestigious family. Besides, she had entered the school with nearly perfect scores on the entrance exam, which were the highest in its history. All in all, she was a perfect superhuman who also excelled at sports. Despite all these traits, she was famously known as a person who hated men. Moreover, it was not long ago that Miyuki had heard she kept rejecting all confessions. Miyuki was so lost in thought that she didn't realize she had been discovered until someone called her name. Looking up to her astonishment, it was Eiji's mother, who was now asking her what she was doing hiding in a place like that. As they stared into each other's eyes, Miyuki thought to herself, clenching inwardly, that this cheating scandal must not be known to her. She further wondered whether it could be Eiji who had told her about it. Miyuki, now pretending, asked his mom whether Eiji was... However, before she could finish her question, she was told that Eiji was inside, and was asked what it was that she needed from him. However, before she could answer, Eiji's mother bowed, while holding her soaked cleaning brush, and apologized to her, saying that normally, as a parent, she should not have gotten too involved in their relationship. Miyuki asked her what she meant. His mother told her that if she listened to her own heart, she would understand. Then, to Miyuki's shock, she told her that she had noticed even before Eiji that she was cheating on him. Miyuki couldn't believe her ears and stood there helplessly. She then reminded her of the time when she, along with her other friends, was having tea at a gathering in the shopping district, and she saw her entering a building while holding hands with a man who wasn't Eiji. However, according to principle, she was free to date anyone, unless she was married. Besides, they were high schoolers, and there were chances of hurting each other and growing apart. She then mentioned that she thought her son Eiji was having a hard time telling her about all this, as she herself had unfortunately assumed that they had mutually agreed to break up until she realized that her assumption was wrong. She reminded her of the time when it was Eiji's birthday, and when she left earlier that day, she realized that she had betrayed Eiji. Miyuki, remembering what she was referring to, immediately tried to defend herself and told her that it was not the case. However, his mother, without listening to her, told her that she had no obligation or reason to listen to her excuses. Besides, she didn't want to hate her any more than she already did, and then requested that she stop with her strange excuses. Miyuki, now understanding that she couldn't defend herself no matter how she tried, apologized to her. His mother rejected those words of apology, telling her that she didn't want to hear them. Besides, they had known each other for 10 years, so she would offer her one last piece of advice. Love is free, but no one has the right to try or trample on pure affection. It might not be a crime, but I think it's a sin heavier than that. Before leaving, she told her that from now on, at least she should act properly. Helpless and disappointed, Miyuki begged her, asking whether she could let her see Eiji. His mother outright rejected the idea, telling her that it wouldn't happen. She reminded her what kind of mother would forgive a cheating woman who had trampled on her precious son's feelings. This made Miyuki truly saddened, and tears started to pour out of her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. She then grabbed the cleaning brush more tightly and told her that even though it was ultimately for Eiji to decide, she would prefer that at least she not show her face in front of her from now on. Then, in a furious voice, she told Miyuki that she wasn't worthy of her son, scaring her as she realized she had lost all her chances. As tears flowed from her eyes, she remembered how once she had happily brought them desserts when she visited along with Eiji and how enthusiastically his mother used to welcome her. These memories made her kneel onto the ground as she continuously uttered, "No," unable to let this happen, and bowed in front of his mother, begging for another chance. His mother, however, without any emotion, told her that this wasn't possible. As it was in front of the store, if she stayed like that, it would become trouble for the customers, so she should hurry and move away from there. As she herself also left, his mother said goodbye to her for the last time as she put the closed board over the door of the store. Crying her heart out, Miyuki realized that she could never go back anymore. Hopeless and heartbroken, she stood up, tears still dropping from her eyes, and walked slowly toward her home. Reaching her home, she opened the door and, seeing her mother sitting at the dining table, told her that she was home. Her mother cheerfully welcomed her back and mentioned that she was earlier than usual. Miyuki lied to her, saying that it seemed Eiji was not feeling well. Hearing that, her mother laughed heartily and playfully mentioned that they were still being lovey-dovey. She then dreamily said that she was so happy that ever since Miyuki was little, she had always said that she would become Eiji's bride. Then, closing her eyes, she told her that she was having such a wonderful youth. Miyuki was disheartened and couldn't bring herself to tell her the truth. Clenching her teeth, she told her that it was so. However, deep down in her heart, she trembled as she silently begged her not to remind her of the embarrassing things she had done as a child. Trying to escape from there, Miyuki told her mother that she had a test coming up soon, so she was going to study. Her mother, feeling happy for her, wished her good luck. She immediately rushed to her room. Opening the door, she locked it from inside and fell face forward onto the bed. Putting her face between her arms, she thought that it was not only Eiji and Auntie whom she had betrayed, but her mom as well. As more tears came out of her eyes, depressing thoughts started to well up in her mind, that she was the worst, and that she kept betraying the people she cared about the most. Moreover, it was too late to start crying over Eiji. It was too late to act innocent. Besides, did she really think he was the only victim? After all, she wasn't the only one who cheated. Someone had helped with the conspiracy to frame Eiji and isolate him. This meant that Eiji must have suffered a lot, so there was no way that she would be forgiven. Now getting up from the bed, she opened the side drawer and took out a photograph in which both she and Eiji were standing in front of the entrance ceremony board. Pressing it to her heart, she couldn't stop her sobs. Sitting on the bed with her phone lying in front of her, she thought that she already had no choice but to do this, and she texted him, "Senpai, I wanted to see you," as she realized that she had no choice but to completely become a despicable woman. The next day, Eiji felt a terrible pain in his stomach. He felt that he was in a terrible condition. He told his mother as she was leaving. His mother wished him to have a good day. Opening the door, he found Ichiju standing in front of it, wishing him a good morning. Seeing her, he immediately closed the door. Ichiju asked him why he was closing the door, as she thought they could go to school together today. She further told him that she had woken up early. His mother, who was standing nearby, heard it, and told him that it was Ai-chan's voice. His brother told him that she had come to pick him up, so he had better hurry up and go. His mother also encouraged him to go ahead. Hearing all this, he opened the door, but his mother walked out first and greeted Ichiju, mentioning that she had come all this way for him, and thanking her. Eiji realized what she had come out to ask for. Ichiju also greeted her with a huge smile on her face. His mother asked her how about oyster fry with plenty of tartar sauce, as it was their seasonal limited menu, and whether she would like to join them, since it was always free for her. Ichiju told her that she loved oyster fry. However, she felt bad getting treated so many times, so next time she would properly pay. His mother then praised her, saying that she really was very responsible. She told her not to worry about it, as they also provided takeout service, so she could feel free to ask any time. Ichiju, with a huge smile on her face, thanked her and told her that she was looking forward to having oyster fry. His mother then pushed him out, nearly knocking him down, and told them that they should get going now. Looking at her, he told her that he was leaving, as she looked at them lovingly. Once they were on their way, Ichiju asked him brightly whether he liked to eat kaki fry often. Still flustered, he told her that he ate it sometimes. She said she found it quite nice and told him that she was looking forward to today. She then told him that she was personally on the Worcestershire sauce team for kaki fry. However, when she wanted something refreshing, lemon or ponzu was good as well. Then, closing her eyes as she imagined all these flavors, she told him that the chili sauce was delicious too. Hearing this, Eiji looked at her gratefully, as it was because of her walking with him to school that his fear had decreased quite a bit. But as they entered the school grounds, he heard the whispers again, and disappointment came over his face. Two girls pointed at them and said to each other that Ichiju was walking with that guy. Then, seeing them more clearly, another boy mentioned that it was the rumored Aono. Some whispered, wondering if she was being forced. Hearing all this, Eiji asked Ichiju whether she was okay. Besides, if she were with him, would she not be bullied as well? Without any fear on her face, she confidently told him that there was no way that would be the case. She further admitted that she felt weird telling him this, but she was quite a popular person in the school. Eiji told her that it was true, as he had never heard any rumors about her. Hearing the compliment, she really blushed. Eiji recalled that whenever any guy approached her, she always politely apologized, and told them that even though she was grateful for their feelings, she would propose that if they liked, they could stay friends instead. So that meant she mercilessly rejected their confessions. However, she followed up sincerely and never seemed to have any lingering hard feelings. Moreover, she was also kind, caring, and quite popular with other girls as well. Now in the present, she cheered him up and advised him that she thought he should use whatever he could. So, if he walked with her, then it would be a lot safer for him. Then, looking at him with determination in her eyes, she told him that at the very least this would reduce the risk of people throwing verbal abuse at his face. She further explained that if things went well, then today's rumor would overwrite all that slander, as girls tended to like suspicions about love affairs more. When she tried to add more, he interjected and told her that he didn't want her reputation to drop because of him. Hearing that, she looked at him lovingly and told him that he was kind, but was being too considerate. She then told him that she didn't need a reputation that would drop just from walking to school with a close friend. The same people who directed malice at him without even knowing his character properly were not people she wanted anything to do with. This came as quite a shock to him, and he expressed that it was quite amazing, while tears welled up in his eyes. Seeing that, she told him that it was still too early to cry. Besides, when everything was over, they should cry together a lot. Eiji thought about Satoshi and how, thanks to him, he had found the resolve to go to school. Moreover, thanks to Ichiju, he had gained the determination to fight together. So he still felt that he could believe in people. He was so lost in thought that he didn't realize they had already reached the school gate. Ichiju asked him whether he would walk home with her again as well. Flustered, he asked her whether it would be okay. Pouting her mouth, she asked him what he was saying, as she was the one asking whether they could walk home together. Everyone around them was staring at them with bewildered eyes. Eiji realized that even on the way home, she wanted to protect him, and he requested her to please do it. Ichiju was happy and clapped her hands as she told him that she should then better treat him to kaki fry. Then she said in a funny voice that she was just kidding and left for her class. He then opened his hallway drawer, remembering that whenever he used to open it before, he would find notes there telling him to die or to leave the school. But today, when he opened it, to his astonishment, he only found his shoes inside. He looked around to check whether everything was normal. Iwai-sensei, who was standing nearby, called his name and greeted him good morning. He then told him to go and meet Takayanagi-sensei in the staff room, as he had been worried about him since yesterday. This came as a shock to Eiji, but he agreed to do it, while the other students thought that Iwai-sensei was keeping watch on him. Iwai-san looked at him with proud eyes as he walked away. On the other hand, as Eiji thought about the staff room, he realized that it would really make him stand out, and that was a feeling he didn't like. Besides, there were teachers who suspected him as well. He found Takayanagi-sensei standing in the hallway, waiting for someone. Eiji called out his name and wished him good morning. Eiji, on the other hand, asked him why he was outside. Takayanagi-sensei told him that, given the situation, it would be hard for him to enter the staff room alone. Hearing that, Eiji thanked him. He told him that it was a bare minimum consideration, so there was no need to thank him. However, for now, he just had to tell him what had happened. He then pointed towards the meeting room and told him that they would just use it for now. When Eiji asked him why they were not using the guidance room, Takayanagi-sensei asked him whether he would prefer that. He explained that the guidance room had an atmosphere where the teacher inevitably ended up in a superior position. Besides, this time he wanted to talk to him on equal footing, so he was not planning to use it. Eiji told him that he preferred the meeting room as well. Takayanagi told him that he had expected as much. Entering the meeting room and sitting on a chair, Takayanagi-sensei pointed to the chair beside him and told Eiji to sit near him, as it would be easier to talk rather than facing each other. Takayanagi told him that before they got into hearing his story, there was something he needed to say first. He then bowed to him and told him that he was really sorry, shocking Aono Eiji. He told him that he had failed to notice his unusual state yesterday and had let him go through such painful feelings. Still keeping his head down, he added that he bore some of the responsibility for that incident as well, so he was truly sorry. Eiji, coming out of his shock, told him to raise his head, as he himself had not consulted anyone. Besides, the fact that he had noticed it this quickly was quite amazing. Or rather, but Takayanagi-sensei interrupted him and thanked him. He then told him that he had heard fragments from Imai yesterday, so he roughly understood what had happened. Then looking at him, he said that whenever he was ready and his feelings were sorted, even little by little would be fine. He then asked him whether he would tell him about it.
Please,
Subscribe.
I need this. My mom is kind of homeless.